As to the nature of the 2 hours and 15 minutes, first, let me characterize the meeting was very constructive. The two leaders, I would say, connected very quickly. There was a very clear positive chemistry between the two. I think, again, and I think the positive thing I observed, and I've had many meetings with President Putin before, is there was not a lot of relitigating of the past. I think both of the leaders feel like there's a lot of things in the past that both of us are unhappy about. We're unhappy, they're unhappy. I think the perspective of both of them was this is a really important relationship. Two largest nuclear powers in the world. It's a really important relationship. How do we start making this work? How do we live with one another? How do we work with one another? We simply have to find a way to go forward. And I think that was expressed over and over, multiple times, I think by both presidents, this strong desire. It is a very complicated relationship today because there are so many issues on the table. But I think, and one of the reasons it took a long time, I think, is because once they met and got acquainted with one another fairly quickly, there was so much to talk about. All these issues, just about everything got touched on to one degree or another. And I think there was just such a level of engagement and exchange, neither one of them wanted to stop. Several times I had to remind the president, people were sticking their heads in the door, and I think they sent in the First Lady at one point to see if they could get us out of there. And that didn't work either. But yes, it's true. But it was, well, we went another hour after she came in to see us. So clearly she failed. But I think, you know, what I would describe to you, the 2 hours and 15 minutes, it was an extraordinarily important meeting. I mean, there's so much for us to talk about. And it was a good start. Now, I would tell you, we spent a very lengthy period on Syria with a great amount of detail exchanged on the agreement we had concluded today that was announced, but also where we go and trying to get much greater clarity around how we see this playing out and how Russia sees it playing out. And where do we share a common view and where do we have a difference? And do we have the same objectives in mind? And I would tell you that by and large, our objectives are exactly the same. How we get there, we each have a view, but there's a lot more commonality to that than there are differences. So we want to build on the commonality, and we spend a lot of time talking about next steps. And then where there's differences, we have more work to get together and understand maybe they've got the right approach and we've got the wrong approach. So there was a substantial amount of time spent on Syria, just because we've had so much activity going on with it.